For our stock of the day, I chose Imugene. It has received approval to begin phase 1 clinical trials of its oncolytic viral therapy candidate, Vaccinia. It's one of the presenters at the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference that's underway now. It specializes in cancer immunotherapies. Its share price was absolutely hammered last year, along with many in the biotech space and tech space as well, after hitting record heights toward the end of 2021. So the question for my guests is, A, Imugene specific, but also lots of small cap experts have been pointing to biotechs as potentially an area of outperformance in 2023. I'll start with you, Francesco De Stradis from Minnett on Imugene.
Yeah, look, it's not one I've looked at closely, but I had a bit of a look this morning. It's running trials in about, I suppose, 4 different treatments. So it's a cancer immunology, if I've got the term right. I'm no biotech expert, but develops a range of immunotherapies to activate the immune systems of cancer patients to treat and eradicate tumours in Australia. Look, they're running about 5 different treatments on different types of cancers. I can go to the slides and look at it, the breast cancer, lung cancer, gastric, don't even know how to pronounce that word, colorectal. So they're running a lot of trials, which in one way, you look at a speculative company like this and you'd say, well, at least it's got diversity, because if it misses with one trial, there's another 4 running at the same time. They're at various stages. I think the main one they're looking at is the HER Vax. Which is in phase 2, so it's still got a long way to go. It's got to go through phase 2 and then be successful and then go through phase 3. So there's a lot of water to go under the bridge before this thing can become commercial anyway. It's sitting on about $164 million in cash as of 30th September last year. You'd be looking at the quarterly reports coming up for the December to see how much they're spending. I can say that looking at their spending over the last year, so up till September, their cash burn for FY 2022 was about 31 million, and they're sitting on 163. They burn about 12.2, sorry, up until June last year was 31 million. They burn about 12.2 in September. If they're running these new trials, you'd expect that cash burn to increase. So look, they're sitting on probably 2 to 3 years worth of cash. I suspect that if there is a spike in the share price, that they will need to raise. They'll probably go back to the market and raise a bit more. They always like to raise it when the share price is high, and the interest is high, obviously, because if the interest is high, then they can actually get a capital raising away. So look, it is highly speculative. A long way before we start to see any results. They are in partnership with a number of large firms as well. So that's promising that the larger pharmaceutical companies are keeping an eye on them as well. So look, I'd say at this stage in the market, I'd be more of a hold on this stock, and if you've got it, if you don't have it, I'd be putting it on a watch list. Keep an eye on the announcements that come out, because obviously with clinical trials, positive announcements are going to put a spike in the share price, but any negative announcement on clinical trials will send the stock a lot lower as well. So I think it trades around 16 cents.
Yep.
And that's probably around close to its 2-year lows. So there's a possibility there that if they have some positive announcements, you could probably see that stock jump 20, 25, 30% in one hit. So worth keeping an eye on.
Got it. Thank you. So Imugene, in your view?
Yeah, I think the biotech sector overall, you'd probably be wanting to look at stuff that's close to commercialisation or in the early stages of commercialisation. This one's a really interesting one. It was an interview you did with their CEO. That Hervax vaccine, essentially, it's far less invasive than chemotherapy. So it's basically almost a virus, essentially, that eats away at the tumours. So you're really just coming in for a shot rather than going in for what is really harsh on the body sort of treatments with chemotherapy. So, which also has a lot of different side effects and things. My partner does cancer rehab therapy. people get really knocked about by chemos, so, and particularly by radiation. So anything that's less invasive is going to be really welcomed by the doctors, particularly, obviously the patients. And so I think one of the best things I thought she said was basically, instead of going to a phase 3, they're going to try and have a secondary phase 2 trial and then get it piggybacked around the vaccine, which will bring it to commercialisation a little bit quicker. I think that's probably where you would be, as that gets closer, that's where you'd be looking to buy this thing. As with these sorts of things, little thing we tend to do is we'll take the average volume over the last sort of 12 months and we'll set an alert in the system for when it starts to trade consecutive days above average volume, because as human nature is, things, there's always whispers and around. So and volume usually precedes that. So that's how we tend to play that on our watch list. This one particularly, I would echo Francesco's comments. I like the fact that it's got 5 different runways, and I think Paul Hopper is sort of part of their investing side and capital raising side. He's Viralytics was one that he was involved with that got sold to Merck's, and so there is some experience there, because the CEO is obviously very much more clinical based, which until I read down the list of key employees was mildly concerning, because you obviously want to have someone in there with who can go and sell this to investors. But yeah, look, I think that $160 million cash, I think that gives them a couple of years, and they will be able to wait until the conditions are right, as Francesco said, to have a capital raise. So they're not going to be standing there with their hand out, about to go down the tubes. So yeah, and I think they've obviously got some IP. I think there's about 10 different IPs. I'm not 100% on that, which which are obviously potentially saleable as well. So yeah, I would echo Francesco's comments. It's if you've got it, I would be holding it, but just keeping an eye on it, because I think if they do get an opportunity to get that Hervax piggybacked on something else, it could take off pretty quickly, because I think she's said that it's about a 15-year process to get something through phase 3 trials. So that's a long way away.
Yeah, just reinforcing the 163 million gives them a buffer. If the market has a real nasty turn, they don't have to raise it at really low prices. So they can be a bit more patient when it comes to raising capital, and that comes down to the experience of the CEO and CFO.